1 point, just 1 point. At Stamford Bridge this evening for Chelsea Football Club. Yeah, just 1 point. After all the very, very good run, Club World Cup last season, Conference League, and all of that games, so, people, and including myself, believe Senka, this opening game was Stamford Bridge, the Chelsea, imagine 1 point, not for 1 point, of course, it did not come to plan. Chelsea have not been able to get out, did the 3 points that he needed in the opening day of the English Premier League. What happened, however, is that it was a 0-0 from Chelsea Football Club. All the updates for you, all the analysis, post-match, our on Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. So I want to subscribe to the channel there. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notification. In the notification turning, please just choose all. So anytime that there's content for you, you are first to have it here on Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. Of course, the codes are going through also. Anytime you come here, just go to the description of the video, and then make sure that you go and pick up the codes and give yourself a good chance of winning. So I mean, we all did understand that Crystal Palace was going to be a tough nut to crack, especially in the context of how good they have been under Oliver Glasner. And I've said it several times. You underrate Oliver Glasner at your own peril. This is the manager where he has been able to win Crystal Palace their first major silverware. Um, about 45 more coaches preceded him, and they couldn't do that. I mean, very, very good manager. He did same at Frankfurt. He's those kind of managers where he's able to pick up the team from nowhere and take them to the very top. Excellent manager in that regard. He is a top brain in that job. So I mean, everybody that knows the work of Oliver Glasner, if you've forgotten, I mean, they beat Man City in the FA Cup final, they beat Liverpool in the Community Shield. I mean, draw in regulation time and then beats them on penalty. So obviously, it was going to be a difficult game. And on one more three back, one of the best three back applications I've seen in Europe. It's essentially the three back where the intensity is high, the aggression is high, and then the small spaces in between the lines. They literally don't leave into it. It's a wing back that's worked very hard without the ball, that worked excellently high, hard with the ball in terms of pushing up and then turning over the possession and the counter attacks and stuff like that. But the most important thing is that when you slow down the game, when you're playing against Crystal Palace, some of the best teams in Europe, what they do is that they have to slow down the game. And in slowing down the game, what you have to do is that you pick the pockets. But Crystal Palace seem to have the antidote to also that. What they do is that they use their outside centre backs. So whether it's going to be Abrantefo Munoz or Lacroix or even McGahey outside, they are aggressive and they step up. They don't wait for you to turn and face them. So you saw throughout the game when Cole Palmer will turn, and once he see the ball with a half turning there, Gay will be aggressive, Lacroix will be aggressive, and I think that it was such a very, very good game. Compactness from Crystal Palace. Centrally, they occupied almost every zone and made it difficult for Chelsea to break them down in this area. So you will give a lot of credits to them in that regard. But then again, of course, every Chelsea fan would have expected that you get a 3 points against Crystal Palace. I did mention in the pre-match analysis that one of the things that stand out, that looks like going to stand out, is the fact that Chelsea seem to have more quality in attack. They seem to have more quality on the board. They seem to have more quality in between the lines. Hence, of course, they'll be able to break down Crystal Palace. They'll be able to receive the ball in certain zones where they will hit Crystal Palace even more. But I mean, it was a very, very difficult game in that regard. But Enzo Maresca went into the game with a regular 4-2-3-1. That looked on paper like a 4-3-3, but it's a 4-2-3-1, where he had the bigger question going into the game was that Tosin Adrabiayu, according to Time Sports last night, had not passed the late fitness test and he was injured. And because of that, it means that Joshua Kofi Champon had to play as part of the centre back. Now, Chelsea needed its natural defender in the box. This time it was Trevor Chalobah. And then, of course, Joshua Kofi Champon making the back two. Then Reece James. And then, of course, Marco Correa in there. In the middle of the pack, Moises Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, Cole Palmer up top. Joao Pedro leading the lines. Pedro Neto and Jimmy Bino Gittins combining to make it the starting 11 for Chelsea Football Club. I think that in the opening of the game, the first issues that I saw with the game, good performance from Joshua Champon. See, we spoke about the lack of physicality that probably could be exposed by Jean-Philippe Mateta. He held his own against him. We spoke about the fact that he's too young, probably he may lose his head. He held his own against on the ball and stuff like that. In fact, Joshua Champion showed me a side of his game where I'd not seen before, the ball carrying. I mean, I know that he's a good passer, but not seeing that very good ball carrying and gliding around for a 6 foot plus player. I mean, that is young, 18-year-old. I'm not seeing that. But again, people said it, and we said that. So if Pau Kubasi can play at this age for Barcelona, then why can't Joshua Kofi Champu play at this level for Chelsea Football Club? So it was always going to be, can we go in there? Can he play? Can he get a job? And I think that if that was an audition, it was an excellent audition for Joshua Kofi Champu. He was brilliant in that regard, on the ball, off the ball. There were times where he had to defend the wide zones and wide channels as well because the fullbacks had gone up. Because of Chelsea's plan, if Kukurea tacks in or Rhys James tacks in, there's always space out. So it means that you need your centre backs, all three of them, to be comfortable defending wide areas. And there was one time where Joshua Kofi Champion literally was very, very good in wide area defending against Munoz. Won that ball. There was a second ball again, was quick enough to get to it before Jean-Philippe Mateta. And then, of course, he won a foul over there. So he was good. However, the part of Joshua's game that I personally did not like was the fact that constantly when he carried the ball, he played the ball sideways. He carries the ball, he plays the ball sideways. And for me, that's the problem. As good as a ball carrier as you can be, and in this case, for a club like Chelsea and the highest level, you need to find ways to play forward. You need to break the lines. And in carrying the ball, I think Joshua could have broken the lines a couple of times. And that would have been a game changer. But carrying the ball and then passing sideways is literally counter effective. It doesn't give anything to the team. For me, that is where I had a big problem in how Joshua Champion played. But then, barring that, I think it was excellent. I mean, in the first half, Chelsea started a little bit frantic. In games like this, you need to be patient and hold on to the ball and calm down. But it's as if the game plan was to let us go in there and then go for the first goal. And then now we can start and hold on to the ball and drag them out patiently. But it didn't happen. The first goal did not happen in the opening members of the game, in the opening minutes of the game. So it meant that the game became very frantic. Chelsea were trying to go into a lot of duels, second balls, they were losing it and stuff like that. And that was a big deal. How are you going to do stuff like that when the game becomes more frantic than you expected and you want to control the game? And it was a big deal also. One other big issue that I think I saw with Enzo Maresca and how he set up in that game against Crystal Palace was that, yes, Trevor Chalobah is Chelsea's most comfortable defender, especially in the absence of Tosin Adrebiayo. But it's also very clear that the angles at the LCB doesn't favor him so much. So what it means is that Trevor Chalobah is constantly trying to play at LCB. He's constantly trying to play at LCB, constantly trying to play there. And what happens is that when the ball goes to him at LCB, he can't pass with his left foot, so he has to shift onto his right foot. And the only times that he could send the ball forward is when he goes into the diagonal for Pedro Neto to get on the right hand side. That was a big problem for Chelsea Football Club in terms of how to progress the ball, because there were times where Cole Palmer has shifted and had come in a diagonal pass. A left-footed passer easily finds Cole Palmer, but because he is right-footed, he has to shift. Before he shifts, the opponent also shifts, and then they close that passing lane. So it was tricky. It was tricky. Again, I felt that in the first half, Marc Cucurella was too quick to invest. Now, when you are playing against the Diamond, and again, most times where Chelsea have played against the Diamond, it has been Malo Gusto who usually plays in that Diamond role. Usually, if it's a regular inversion, then Marc Cucurella does it. But when Chelsea are playing against a Diamond, you don't invert fully, you invert halfway like that. So that you have the base, the outside, and then the tip forming a diamond shape of a sort. That it looked as if, it looked to me that Marc Cucurella constantly was inverting too much or too quick. Now, we talk about the inversion several times, but the time of the inversion, when to invert, how to invert is very important, because a split second, somebody blocks passing lane. A split second, somebody blocks passing lane. And it is something that Chelsea do not do well. Also, anytime the two wingers keep the width, the outside, the player that is inverting, so if he's on the left, anytime you keep the width, the player that's inverting is supposed to quickly occupy that space, because you will pull the player out. You pull the opponent winger out. You have to quickly go into that space. And it was something that Enzo Fernandez and Marc Cucurella were supposed to do in between the lines. And for me, they didn't do it well. They didn't do it well at all. It was very difficult for them to do. They struggled to manage those things like that in those games over there, especially for Enzo Fernandez as well. In the first half, he was super lethargic, super lethargic. And I kept on asking myself, why? What has Enzo Fernandez drank because his performances in the first half was nothing to write home about. And again, you need to also commend Crystal Palace for aggression constantly. When you want to see the ball on the half turn, they won't allow you to see the ball on the half turn. Once you see your ball with your back to go, they don't allow you to see the ball in the back to go. So it was a really, really difficult game in that regard for Chelsea when it comes to receiving on the ball, 10 on the half, 10, playing forward, all of those things. They were super difficult for Chelsea Football Club. And for me, that is where the difference making comes in. That is where you have to give a lot of credit to Oliver Glasner. I don't particularly think that it was down to just Chelsea. I think that Crystal Palace made it very, very difficult. In fact, overly difficult for Chelsea in that game. And then again, Chelsea had to react. Chelsea had to find ways to get results in those areas, still stay in the game. That free kick ball that came in, the explanation is simple. The referee saying that Mark Gay used Moses Caicedo, he pulled him away. And that same thing within 1 meter of the Chelsea wall. According to the rule, you are supposed to stay away from the wall, not stay within 1 meter or close to the wall. So, of course, the goal gets chalked off from there. I think that was bad defending from Moses Caicedo to allow himself to be moved like that out of his wall. It was such a wrong thing to do. Chelsea never should have done that. Ideally, you stand behind the player, you stand behind him so that when he moves, you stay there right there and then make sure that you protect the ball to yourself. But of course, he didn't do that. He moved Moses Caicedo. Luckily for Chelsea, the goal was chalked. So in the first half, I think it was more like Chelsea huffing and puffing, a lot of corner kicks. I think the closest Chelsea came up from corner kicks. That flick from Marco Correa in the first pool and was cleared by Ismail Sarr and stuff like that. But again, I think the Chelsea defense held their own well. Set pieces, holding of the line in terms of offside traps, defending aggressive. Joshua Champon, Trevor Chalobah, Rhys James had a tough game against Ebrechi Eze, but I think he held his own over there. So it was such a, balanced display from Chelsea. Ideally, I've said several times, it was in the past, this game, Chelsea lose by a goal to 0. It was at the beginning of Enzo Maresca's reign, you lose by a goal to 0. But things are going in the right direction. Yes, I would have won the 3 points. I think that a 3 points is the best thing that every Chelsea fan would have wanted back. You have to understand. I think that just before the game, in the second half, we went into the second half and then we saw that, okay, fine. Enzo Maresca is beginning to bring in some change. So if you realize in the second half, Marco Correa was not inverting quicker. Now, Marco Correa delayed. Constantly, he was delaying before he inverts. In fact, when Chelsea are building up, he keeps the width there, then waits till the ball gets there before he inverts. So that the timing of the inversion, it's not easy for Crystal Palace to track him and to defend against him. So he stays lower so that Crystal Palace, you see if he will drag his marker down and open up the space for Chelsea to play the pass through back. That was also not really happening until Chelsea made those changes of bringing in Esteval Willian for Jimmy Bino Gittins. And of course, we know the quality of Esteval Willian on the right-hand side. Just when he came, I think that it upped the tempo of the game on the right-hand side. Anytime he received the ball, he was exciting, he was direct, he was right in the faces of people, twisting and turning. In fact, that very, very first ball that he had, I think that was an excellent opportunity where he should have done that. He also got a chance in the box, a very, very good chance in the box for he himself, Esteval Willian, where the goal was gaping for him. Also, Pedro Neto had asked him for him to lead the ball there, but he didn't do that. He allowed, he tried to kick the ball, and then the ball went out of touch. So obviously, young player, 18 years, he saw that this can be a big opportunity for him to put his name in gold, and then tomorrow all the papers in the UK will be talking about Esteval Willian and stuff like that. But in games like this at the top level, when the game is going deeper, that is where you need your composure. When the game is going deeper, that is where you need calmness. When the game is going deeper, that is where you need your patience to stay in the game as long as possible, because this is where the best guys end their big bucks. This is where the best guys end their game. I think also that Cole Palmer really wasn't in the game, not because he was not good enough. And I've seen a lot of the media, the big media in the UK already starting to ask questions about Cole Palmer's ability, the fact that he has not scored since February 2025 or January or so, and it's not good and stuff like that. See, this is a very stubborn Crystal Palace side, and the spaces were not there for him to thrive. So obviously he's not going to score. But it doesn't mean that Cole Palmer is out of form. It doesn't mean that Cole is a bad player. I think that he's going to score. In fact, he's going to score a truckload of goals, and there's nothing absolutely to worry about in that regard. So For me, I'm calm in the Cole Palmer conversation in that regard. Of course, later on in the game, when the game begins to wear on and then Enzo Maresca brought on Liam Delap, everybody saw what I've been talking about. The difference in striker that Liam Delap is. When the game becomes stretched like that, and then you are playing against a very stubborn side, now that is where you need Liam Delap. You go long to him, he holds up play, he brings Cole Palmer into play, he brings Pedro Neto into play. I think that the openings came. I think that there were a lot of openings that came for Chelsea through Cole Palmer, where easily Liam Delap came closer. Estevao William came closer. A lot of the Chelsea players did come closer. There was a chance for them to go in there and then go and deliver, but then they failed to do their job. They really, really failed at getting the job done, and that's obviously affected the team. You would want to think that at the end of the day, how best can they go in and then go with respect to the subsequent games? Liam Delap, Cole Palmer. And I like Liam Delap with a hold up play. I like Liam Delap with a channel run. I like Liam Delap with the fact that he could play the ball to feet. And there was one ball where Liam Delap was excellent at it. The ball came to feet, played through Pedro Neto, and then the ball fell to Andre Santos. And oh my boy, Andre, um, left foot, left foot, Andre Santos. Literally, the ball just went off the post and he had opened his mouth. Cole Palmer was right ahead of him, and Cole was asking for the ball. He could have just tapped it. I mean, he did same for Liam Delap in that game against AC Milan, where he just tapped, lifted up for Liam Delap. This time, he didn't do that. Could have just left the ball for Liam Delap. He did not do that. Liam essentially, I mean, Cole Palmer fell to his knee at the time. He just fell to his knee where he was frustrated about the fact that he could not get a ball from Andre Santos over there. But I think that all in all, as the game stretched, Chelsea defensively were solid. They stayed in it. They believed that they could get that goal. There were openings that came. Liam Delap himself had a very, very good chance. I like the fact that Liam Delap played well in that opening game as well. I like the fact that Estevao Willian came on and got a lot of confidence in playing well. I like the fact that the boys, at least, they didn't win the game, but they kept a clean sheet in there. And for me, these are some of the things that you want to look at. It's a 38 long haul of a season, and you need to manage games where you need to do things, or in games where you can't win, you need to make it difficult for teams to beat you. It has been far easier for teams to come to Stamford Bridge and score one goal and then run away with that goal. But this time, it was compact, it was good. But last season, there were certain draws. I mean, you played Crystal Palace draw again at the Stamford Bridge, certain draws that didn't work. 3 London derbies. I spoke in the pre-match analysis that, see, one of the things that people don't talk about is the difficulty in London teams winning the league probably comes from the many London derbies that they play in. Yeah, I mean, people don't talk about it a lot, but these London derbies are difficult to play in. It's not easy because you are literally playing against neighbors and it's a rivalry, it's a derby. And derbies are very, very difficult to play in. And that's exactly where Chelsea had to manage this game against Crystal Palace. They had to play well against Crystal Palace and they got a draw. I'll see what Enzo Maresca said, of course, after the Man United Arsenal game. I'll come back with you some more analysis. But before the game started, we had gotten wind of the fact that Chelsea had sent 50 million to Inter Milan for Alejandro Bastoni, and Inter had turned it down. I've mentioned here several times that for me, the main centre back that can do that job in the middle of the park centrally as a CCB in the absence of Levi Cole is Alejandro Bastoni. I've said it several times. It is Alejandro Bastoni. If it is not Bastoni, then I don't know who can do that job now. He's the one that lets the team to a notch or two higher. He's the one that is a comfortable passer of the ball, whether from the left side, from the right side. Once Bastoni comes, it means that Chelsea has to sell Bajashile. It means that Bajashile has to go. And it means that the Sassi outright has to go. But is there market in there for these two players? And that's where I think that they are in. But to take 50 million to Inter Milan, it means that Chelsea most likely will go back to them and ask questions about the price and maybe send a better offer to them as well. Also, what we heard before the game was that Bayern Munich are closing in on Christopher Nkunku. And you know what that means? That means that immediately that deal is sorted. Xavi Simons is going to be en route Chelsea. I hear he has been cleared to everybody, according to Jules Lawrence this summer. Xavi Simons has been cleared to everybody that he only wants Chelsea. Has been cleared to Man City, Man United, Liverpool, everybody, Bayern Munich, everybody, that it's only Chelsea that he wants to play. So that is very, very good. I think that Xavi Simons is going to be a top cult hero at Chelsea, given what he has been able to do over there for the club. So I mean, it's just 1 point, but it's also the start of the season. There is nothing bad that has happened. It's the start of the season. There's positive in the possibility of finding reinforcement in Alejandro Bastoni and also getting in to get Xavi Simons to come and help the squad. But of course, first week, 1 point for Chelsea Football Club. We turn our attention to Manchester United versus Arsenal. I'll be back with our analysis. Until then, do take care. Bye bye.